Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was released in 2002 and was again directed by Chris Columbus. And in this movie, Harry returns to Hogwarts where everything seems nice until he starts hearing voices, and that voice starts harming the Muggle-born students of Hogwarts. Well, back at it again with Harry Potter movies. We are now on Book 2 and Movie 2. Now, I already reviewed Sorcerer's Stone. You can check it out on my channel right there. But let's talk about this movie. And funny enough, this is the movie and book that I read the most and watched the most growing up. And I'll explain why I love this book and this movie so much. Starting off with the positives, I really think one of the biggest positives of this movie and book that nobody really talks about is the comedy. Ron is probably the funniest he's ever been in this movie. He is so funny, and it's just, you know, a testament to how great Rupert Grint was throughout this series, but especially in this movie. Rupert Grint's facial expressions are so good. His reaction to the Howler itself is so funny. I love his interaction with his mom. This is where we first get to see Molly Weasley on a not really just a cameo level. This is a full, she gets multiple scenes with Harry, and that's where you truly get to see Molly more in the movie. So I really like that. You get to see the Burrow for the first time. You get to see Fred and George more. This is just a really funny movie because the Weasleys are just such an amazing family to be around. But the funniest part of this movie, without a doubt, is Gildory Lockhart, played expertly by Kenneth Branagh. I know a lot of people like to talk about Alan Rickman being the best casted person for this movie, but people really need to talk about Kenneth Branagh as Gildory Lockhart. When you read Gildory Lockhart as a character, he does it perfectly. I personally love Gildory Lockhart as a character. Just the smugness, just the hilarity of how he is so just conceited and wrapped around his celebrity. It just makes the book so much more funny and more interesting when you see the twist at the end of what happens. I also really love a whodunit movie, and it makes it even better that it's in the wizarding world. That's what's really cool. Now, the build up to the twist at the end is actually done really well. And I'm actually going to talk about in the negatives how the end result of the twist isn't what I would have done. That's just me, but the lead up to it was really good. Everybody kind of seeing, okay, how is it Harry and Ron figuring it out while Muggle-born students are being petrified, how Hermione gets petrified. I think it was really well done by Chris Columbus, and of course the actors also did really well. This movie is also really good pacing-wise because the reason why I always liked this book more than the first one is because the first one is like, once you've already read the book and you know how the universe goes, sometimes it can slightly be a little bit of a drag when you're just like, come on, hurry up and get to Hogwarts already. I don't really care about the Dursleys because I hate the Dursleys. But because this movie, we already know the universe, they get right into it as quickly as possible, and you get to see more stuff going on because Harry now understands Hogwarts and this universe more, just like we do. So because we know more, we can go along with the ride with Harry, and we can do more fun stuff, and it can be more fast-paced compared to the first one. The CGI is also really well done. It's crazy how much time changed from 2001 to 2002. Now, I'm not saying it's a hit out of the park for the CGI, but it is a big improvement. Like the Basilisk, the look of the Basilisk specifically, looks really good. I really like it. I know some aspects of the snake were practical effects, which is really cool, and it still holds up pretty well. Like again, when you look at the first movie with the troll scene and Quidditch, it just doesn't look that great, but the second movie is actually a lot more watchable, and it doesn't take you out of it as much as the first one did. And this is, of course, where we first meet Dobby the House Elf, and Dobby has always had a special place in my heart. There's a reason why he is a fan favorite of the Harry Potter franchise. The look of Dobby is really well done. I love his voice, his mannerisms. They really got the character kind of down a little bit. There is one aspect of the character relating to Harry why I feel like it just wasn't as executed well, and I'll get into it. It's kind of a nitpick, but for the most part, I really like what they did with Dobby. I will say, I do hate how later down in the movies we don't see him as much as we should, but for this movie we see him a lot. He is a big highlight of the movie, and I do like his arc for the Chamber of Secrets. We are still in the Columbus era of films, so I really do like the look of this movie. I think this one probably captures the look of Hogwarts more than the first one. I mean, I go back and forth because I know in the first one they really wanted to emphasize that Harry's first time in Hogwarts, and they wanted to make it look all magical. But I don't know, maybe just nostalgia because I watched this movie the most, but I just love the way this movie looked. And I really appreciate Columbus and his production crew for making this truly look like Hogwarts. And honestly, besides a couple of nitpicks and maybe just some execution stuff, they really adapted Chamber of the Secrets really well. Now for the negatives. While Dobby looks good and talks good, I think the relationship between him and Harry was not as good as it was in the book. Now let me explain why. Harry in the first two movies is not as patient as he was in the book. In the book, Harry's a lot more patient and a lot more, how do I say this, self-reflecting before he likes to say what's going on. You know, and that's just, you know, a book being, that's what a book is all for. You truly are seeing it from their perspective because you hear his thoughts and everything. You can't really do that in the movies. But in the book, anytime he saw Dobby, he wasn't really annoyed. He was more like sympathy towards him, because anytime Dobby hit himself or hurt himself, Dobby was like, why are you doing this? Like, relax, please sit down, let's talk. But in the movies, right when Harry sees him, he is already annoyed by Dobby. So that way at the end, when he finally sets him free, it's like, oh, it's nice, but like, it's just a little bit weird that it happened. Whereas in the book, it kind of makes more sense, because Harry always took sympathy towards Dobby and always went to see him do better. But in the movies, in the first half of Chamber of Secrets, it was like, I mean, Harry's already agitated with him, so their relationship isn't as good as it is in the book. It's a little bit of a nitpick, maybe it's just me, but that's just how I saw it. I think the biggest negative of Chamber of Secrets, the movie, is Ginny itself. Now, I will say, the movies really did Ginny Weasley so bad, oh my lord, specifically when we get to, you know, Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince, but let's talk about this movie. Ginny is a lot more involved in the books, you know, especially towards the end where, okay, spoiler alert, if you have somehow never read Chamber of the Secrets or watched the movie Chamber of Secrets, spoiler here, but Ginny Weasley is the one who opens the Chamber of Secrets, and it's revealed that Voldemort was talking to her through his diary. Then, of course, Harry meets young Tom Riddle, who turns out to be Lord Voldemort. All that happens. Great. But because we barely see Ginny in this movie, the twist isn't as good. You're just like, oh, it's Ginny. But in the books, you actually see a lot more of her. You see her interact a little bit more with Harry. And towards the end of the book, you see that Ginny is like always nervous around Harry. And at first you're like, oh, it's because of the fandom. But you see that she's trying to talk to him about something. But because Percy is always around, or Ron's always around, she always runs away and freaks out. So that way when the twist happens in the book, it makes it all make sense. You're like, oh, I see what was going on. But because in the movie, you don't see her except in what, the first like 10 minutes of this movie, it's not that good of a twist. That's just me. I feel like that was just, they just didn't execute it as well. If they put her in more scenes in the movie, it would have been a way better twist. I also hate that Colin Creevey is not in this movie as much as he is in the book. He's actually a big part of the book, in my opinion, because he's a Muggle-born student, because he gets petrified. It's a big part of the book because it's Harry going, oh my god, this is getting really, really serious. But because you see him in like, what, a scene, maybe half of a second scene, that's it. That's all you get of Colin Creevey, and he's actually in the third book as well, but you don't see him in the third movie either. So, look, that's just Warner Brothers and the writers deciding, okay, let's just focus on our main three and not focus as much on the side character. Let's just completely focus on the main three, and that sucks because the Harry Potter books always had some of the most interesting characters, so I hate that a lot of them fell behind just so we could focus on Harry, Hermione, and Ron. And speaking of side characters, I hate that we never saw the Death Day party. That would have been so cool to see in live action form. That's just the movies not taking advantage of the amazing side characters that Harry Potter has. The ghosts of Hogwarts are some of the most interesting. Peeves, Nearly Headless Nick. It is so cool to see them in the books, but in the movies, all you see is Nearly Headless Nick, and that's it. How could you not see Peeves? How could you not do the Death Day party? It would have been so cool to see Harry, Ron, and Hermione interact with those ghouls of Hogwarts. How could you not do that? Come on, Columbus, come on. And this is just another nitpick. In the movies, it doesn't really show that everybody's suspecting Harry. You know, I know there's like one scene that sometimes you see it depending on which, you know, version you watch. I know when you watch it on TV, you don't really get to see it, but if you see it on DVD, you get to see how the Hufflepuffs are talking about how Harry is the true heir of Slytherin and all that stuff. But other than that, you don't really see everybody suspecting Harry. Yeah, you see Filch see him, but in the books, you truly see how everybody looks at Harry. Everybody's like, yo, I think it's him, and it starts to get to Harry. You know, as the books go on, Harry hates it when people look at him. And it starts from the first movie, and it amplifies in the second movie when he starts hearing voices, when he convinces the snake to not kill the Hufflepuff boy. All that happens, and plus, and then everybody's looking at him like, yo, he can speak Parseltongue, people are dying, or people are being petrified in the hospital. I'm pretty sure he's the heir of Slytherin. We should all just focus on him. And it starts to get to Harry. But you don't really get that in the movie whatsoever. So, look, maybe I'm just being nitpicky, but that's just me. I feel like that's a big part of Harry's character, how, like, he just hates all the attention he's getting, and it slowly gets to him before, of course, the twist at the end and everything goes back to normal. Overall, guys, this is a really good adaptation from the book. This is still probably the movie I watch the most because it is probably my personal favorite. I am rewatching these movies again, so we'll see what happens, but for now, I do really love this movie. I love this book. They adapt it really well. Now, from a movie perspective, I give it an A, but from a book adaptation perspective, I'm also giving it an A. So good job on opening the Chamber of Secrets, and the movie still holds up. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.